Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. It's been a full year since Meta has blocked news for Canadian users whereby you, in Canada, can't share or view news links on Facebook or Instagram. This was Meta's response to the Trudeau government's Online News Act, Bill C-18, which intends to compel tech giants to pay Canadian media anytime their news content is used or shared. With newsrooms across the country already in crisis, how badly has this impacted Canadian news media outlets? Here to explain is the managing editor of the Daily Hive, which is Canada's fastest growing digital publication. She is Amanda Wawryk, and this conversation is brought to you by Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino, laid back luxury as beachfront as it gets. So Amanda, what is the status of Meta's news ban here in Canada? Is there any progress on removing the ban?
No,
Oh,
it doesn't seem that way. So yeah, as you mentioned, this bill received royal assent last June, and we started noticing the impacts probably in late July, early August. So, at Daily Hive, all of our news stories went up on Facebook, that sort of thing. And we started to notice, okay, fewer likes, no engagement. And, that's when it really took effect. And, Facebook was a significant part of our traffic, Instagram as well. So right now there really isn't much update. Meta has it seems to be that they've basically said, no, we have no interest in negotiating.
wow.
With the federal government. Now, I will say there is a bit of a silver lining. You mentioned tech giants. The silver linings with Google. Google has negotiated, with the government. They have agreed to pay $100 million to media organizations in Canada so that their news can still be hosted in Google search. So if you search for something on Google, it's on Google, thank goodness.
Okay.
So that is a little bit of a silver lining. And, that's kind of forced Daily Hive to do more research into search engine optimization.
Interesting.
These days, if you're on LinkedIn, you see SEO all over.
Right.
And that is search engine optimization. So what Daily Hive had to do, we're a really agile company. We're a young company with really hardworking reporters. And we've worked with them to improve SEO. We've worked with the experts. We've gotten advice from outside sources about how we can really build up our presence on Google. And so you'll see Daily Hive higher in search results.
Interesting. Now, I had heard that for the last 2 years before the ban, news traffic on Facebook in particular had already been on the decline. And I know that Daily Hive has been historically quite reliant on Facebook in particular, right? Because that's where you're generating all the traffic. So did you already see a decline in terms of traffic from Facebook even before the ban?
Slightly. It's hard for me to kind of gauge necessarily. I joined Daily Hive in September 2021.
Okay.
I came from a radio background. And so, when I started, Facebook was bread and butter for us, for our traffic sources. It was huge. And so, some posts would just absolutely take off. And as we were, growing and hiring more reporters and writers, we had more and more stories to get out there. So, I would work with our director of audience at the time to, look at algorithm changes, that sort of thing. We were posting every 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a big job. And that's in all cities across the country that we operate in. So that was a huge thing. So then, if we had a ton of news one day, can we go to 15 minutes? Will that make a difference on the algorithm? And, sometimes some stories wouldn't get a lot of traffic, but then other stories where you're still seeing huge numbers from them.
That's so fascinating.
So
Wow.
It wasn't, it definitely wasn't a significant or dramatic kind of fall off the cliff.
Okay.
That's until July, August last summer.
Right, when the ban
is
came in.
when the
Yeah.
ban came into effect.
Now, I look at Facebook as a bit of a digital newsstand where it is delivering a lot of links, news articles to people because people are sharing things. It shows up in your feed. And so I'm just wondering, for Canadian media companies, has this bill, the C-18, the Online News Act, it seems to have been doing more harm, right? Because why should these big tech giants compensate companies like yours? What am I missing here?
In a way, it stung. It stung media organizations, big and small, right across the country who, relied on Facebook, on Instagram to tell these stories. And it's been hard, but you have to be agile. You have to adapt. That's just, the world.
But is there a
in.
rationale to have those companies like Google pay Canadian news media organizations, or is it just their existence is actually already helping you out?
I would say their existence is already helping us out. It would be hard to say, necessarily. Sure, the money could be great, but at the same time, we just want to get our news out to Canadian consumers. We want to tell them the stories that matter. We want them to be able to, find Daily Hive, a trusted source of news and information right across the country. And now it's way harder for consumers. They have to, go out and search out this news.
Right. Ultimately, I feel like the internet has basically become like 6 sites and those sites then like filter to other sites. And so in the case of Daily Hive, like how has this affected your newsroom, or how has it affected just Canadian media in general when I guess everyone is so reliant?
One thing we've done at Daily Hive, as I've said, we're agile, we adapt. We've really gone after, short form video. We've gone after TikTok. We found other ways of getting our information out. Another one is our daily newsletters right across the country, where we can curate news that we think is important for Canadians to know and get it sent directly to your inbox. So sign up at dailyhive.com if you haven't. And, we're also focusing on verticals like our dish, which is our food coverage, our sports, and our lifestyle. And, those verticals aren't blocked. So we're really putting, big efforts, again, into video, into food, into sports, into lifestyle. And Canadians can still get that news as well. And just expanding and growing and, finding new ways to share that information.
Sounds like you're definitely ahead of the curve, because I think that's where it's headed for media organizations is newsletters, and you can develop lists and things like that. Really quickly, is it strange that Meta has banned Canadian news sites, or I should say news sites for Canadians, while at the same time misinformation, disinformation is still being spread quite openly?
I don't think it is. It's, Canadians really have to think with a critical eye. You notice, on Instagram, on Facebook, all these brands are popping up, delivering news. But, for Daily Hive and, other news sites, we're staffed by experienced journalism or journalists with newsroom experience. And many of the sites or, brands you see on Instagram, they don't have that background. So, when you look at your news, you have to think critically. Has it been sourced properly?
You're putting a lot of trust in the consumer here.
And, but that's kind of the, way we live. And that's unfortunate,
Yeah.
I read tons of different news sites, and it's really a shame because so many journalists right across the country are telling incredibly powerful stories that I wish all Canadians could see. But with the ban, it's hard, and it's not getting shared as widely as it could have, which really does a disservice to Canadians in general.
It really does. Amanda, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Folks, that was the Daily Hive's managing editor, Amanda Wawryk. Bookmark the Daily Hive and visit their site directly, just like you do with CHEK News. Daily Hive just expanded to Victoria back in February to deliver interesting news stories to keep you connected to Victoria and Vancouver Island. So be sure to check them out. You can also follow them on X and TikTok. Thank you so much to Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino for supporting local conversations. Now stick around, because in an episode about social media, we have to talk about the trolls. Comedian Dino Archie will walk us down the social media low road up next.